All right, let's try this again. Welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back. If you have, my intention is unity and oneness. So I'll just say that this is going to be a little bit of an energy update, and then we're going to go into a little flow. I was having a beautiful conversation with a friend of mine this morning, and the gist of the conversation and the conversations that I've had with people, everybody's in their own bubble. We all have questions. We all have feelings that we're experiencing and going through as a collective. And what I was guided to share was share in those feelings. One of the things that I assist others in doing is discovering what their gifts are, whether it be through conversation or a gentle reminder that somebody might already know what their gifts are. And each of us has a special gift to bring to the table. For some people, we're really handy, right, with our hands. We do woodworking, or we're painters, or we're mechanical. And that's the gift that you can assist your neighbors with right now, or you can assist perhaps somebody who their car needs to get some extra work right now, or you've got a neighbor who can't figure out what's going on with their electronics. That's some examples. Some of us are motivators, and we're having trouble feeling motivated ourselves. And this particular starseed that I was talking with this morning, she's one of those. She's a motivator. She gets people going. She's a more of like a leader of fitness, right? Breathe, pump it up, get excited. And she doesn't feel like doing that right now. And the message was pretty clear. That's okay. Whatever we're used to doing, or whatever roles we're used to fitting or providing for ourselves so that we can provide for others, it's okay to fit a different role. It's okay to take a step back and give ourselves permission not to fill any role right now, other than being present. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about that. For some of us, we're in it right now. We're like, yeah, now is our time to motivate others, to assist others, to share videos, to get creative, to help other mothers that are out there that are feeling stressed. And then sometimes that role is reversed, and it's time for us to sit back and be the sponge, and to take in soft music, and to get some sun, to do some yoga. And one of the biggest things we are being invited to focus is, how do I feel in this moment? Because this is about taking things moment to moment. The more we future trip, and the more we think about what we should be doing, or what might be going on out there, or what could happen, all of those are forms of future tripping, as my friend Kat so lovingly calls it. Our focus is, how do I feel now? Acknowledge how we feel. It's easy to get sucked into the frenzy, the fear, the imbalance that is being portrayed in the media, the imbalance that is being reflected back at us for a large collective that are imbalanced or not feeling balanced. But for those of us that consider ourselves stabilizers, so to speak, stabilize, hold the field, eau de door, right? We are not necessarily going to feel like that 24/7, and that's okay. The more we give ourselves permission to feel what we're feeling in the moment, the easier it is, and the better it is to integrate what we're feeling. Because again, it's coming back to the basics. It isn't just about feeling love and light all of the time. I don't feel love and light all the time. I have moments where I go into a place of unknowingness. I have moments that I feel a little sucked into the frenzy or the energy that's going on around me. But those moments are few and far in between. I recognize them when I'm there, and I do what I need to do in order to stabilize and bring myself back into harmony, bliss. And I said this in my blog post, But bliss does not mean, oh, everything is sunshine and rainbows all of the time, and everything is magical, and everywhere I look there's unicorns. Not to say that some of us aren't there quite frequently. It may be a little more challenging right now to find that spot. But if I'm in that space all of the time, and if I'm truly that way all the time, awesome. If you're that way, I have a few friends, a few light workers who are bliss. I have one friend that I have, Megan, who's always blissy. Most of the time. But she even has days where she feels like, gosh, I was really tired today, or I was really struggling with this. And we talk about it. She shares that with her friends, right? With her family, her husband, her spouse. And we're being invited to do the same. It isn't about us trudging through this, acting like everything's fine when it's not. But it is about recognizing when we don't feel fine. And that in itself is sometimes what we need to do in that moment to be responsible for our reactions, taking action in responsibility and not reacting. For the less harmonized we are here, and the more we're in pretend la la land, or we're in pretend ignore, everything then is out of balance and out of alignment. And it may not feel that way because we're ignoring those feelings, but that's when dis-ease in the body begins to magnify. That's when things around us begin to pile up until they're so loud that we cannot ignore them any longer. So it's integrate. Acknowledge, how am I feeling right now? Maybe working out right now isn't what I need to do. Maybe it's time to take a nap. Set the timer for 10 minutes. Maybe I need to sit in the sun for 10 minutes. Maybe I need to take a hot Epsom salt bath. Maybe it's time to go gardening. And on the flip side, if we've been in bed for 5 days, it might be time to pay attention to our body. Our body might be saying, I need to move. So it is about us using our own intuition and acknowledging how we feel, and also honoring our brothers and sisters for how they feel. Because just because I feel like getting up and moving today doesn't mean I'll feel like that tomorrow. It also doesn't mean that I need to project that onto everybody else, right? We are all going through this together, yet we are not going through this in the same way. Everybody has their own thoughts, their own fears. Not to mention, we're also feeling that in the collective. So we're all expanding in our awareness. Therefore, we are all having a heightened awareness of what is going on in the collective. Thoughts that we maybe never would have had before might be popping into our head. That is a form of telepathy. And so we're picking up on the vibes that everybody's putting out, so to speak. So that's where we're being reminded to be responsible and not to react to other people's fears, other people's thoughts. And acknowledge, digest, use it for usable energy. I keep calling it composting. We're taking all that and we're composting it. We're creating something else from it. We're using it energetically. We all have our gifts, and while we may not feel like we can utilize what our gift was, and I'm going to use fitness as an example. Let's say that you're usually a fitness trainer and there's nobody to teach right now from your perspective, or nobody wants to connect in that way. It can be sometimes a sign from the universe that it's time to go into meditation. It might be time to play with paints. It might be time to, get out and do something else instead of what we're always used to doing. Shake it up a little bit. Try something different. So I wanted to share that. I have talked with a lot of people that are bored. I'm not bored. That's no judgment. For me, in my world, if I'm bored, that is my signal that there's something that maybe I'm not focusing on or noticing. So I just talked about us paying attention to our bodies and what our bodies are telling us. If we're really tired and we feel really down, and exercising or going for a walk doesn't make us feel better, we feel more tired, that is a sign that we need to unplug and just take a nap. Take a 30-minute power nap. Go and do something. If we're feeling a restless agitation and our body is like twitchy, or we're feeling like this, I call it the body quakes instead of the earthquakes, even if it's at 2 a.m., that's a good time to get up and just stretch, do some yoga, get some movement in, right? Allow this energy, which is where I'm going with this, to course through us, to run its course, to connect us where we need to go, to open our channels up intuitively, energetically, creatively, in creativity, right? To where we need to be focusing on. And it all starts here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about at the end about some of the things that are going on around the internet. But what I mean by that is, if we are all in this, many of us are having trouble focusing right now, myself included. I have moments where all of a sudden I just go, what should I be doing right now? So I'm going to go back to the whole board thing. There are plants to be planted, right? There are seeds that we can plant. I have a friend who's starting a garden right now, which is awesome, with her kids. There are coloring books to be colored, if that's really what it boils down to. There are closets to be cleaned. There are things to throw away. There are reconnections to be made with old friends that maybe we have been missing. Reminders. There are people to connect with who might need a little extra help that we might have forgotten about, right? There are animals that still need care, volunteering in an animal shelter, fostering an animal. These are all still options. It's not like those things don't need to still continue. I could go on, and perhaps maybe in another video I'll make a list of things that can be done. But it's a sign that there's something that we feel that we're craving, that we can't quite grasp sometimes when we're in a place of boredom. So one of the things that I do is I just go back again, breathe, dance, put on some music you haven't listened to in a while, try listening to some different music that you never listened to, create your own music, get online and learn how to play the piano, right? Write in the journal. Talk about maybe also what you're feeling. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to not know what's going on. And recognizing that is really important. And integrating those emotions and then saying, well, what do I have control over? I have control over what I do with my body, what I eat, if I'm moving, what I'm focusing on. I watched an episode of The Cosmos last night, which, by the way, is awesome. Whether or not it's 110% accurate is irrelevant. It gets the imagination going. And this is where I'm leading this. Our intention and focus and imagination is key to what we are experiencing and creating in our timelines, in our reality. For those of you who are not familiar with timelines, let's just pretend for a moment, I'm just going to talk briefly about this, that you're having a great day. You're getting up, you're cleaning the house, and then you turn on the news. And all of a sudden, all these fears come rushing in. I never thought about that. Well, what if this does happen? And then a half hour later, you feel exhausted, depressed, or you have a stomach ache, or you're starting to get a headache. All right, multiple things just happened, okay? What happened was you were in one vibration, and then something from the outside environment brought you, or you allowed it to, by setting your focus on that, by intending to give energy to the news station, for example, or the story of what you were now focusing on took you out of this space and brought you into this space. And then this is a very simplified explanation of timelines. This isn't exact. We're just going, generalized here. So in this timeline, you might have gone throughout your day and had a beautiful conversation with some people, and all of a sudden felt really creative and decided to start this woodworking project or creating a scrapbook. Now you're here and you can't focus, you don't feel great, and you can't get anything done because you're going in circles, or you got sucked into the news, or you shut down and called 5 other people and complained and freaked out and sprinkled that energy into their day. See where I'm going with this? Everything is connected. Does this mean that once you're here, you can't get here? Not at all. It's when we get here and we don't acknowledge that we're here that it keeps bringing us into that timeline. So on this timeline now, you go throughout the day and you just don't feel great. Your body hurts, you don't know where to go, you're spinning, and energetically creating what I call the pig pen of Charlie Brown and Snoopy. So this timeline is separate from this timeline. That doesn't mean you can't get back on track. So acknowledging, whoa, how did that happen? How did I get so upset? Oh, I had this conversation with my fill in the blank, sibling, mother, father, sister, brother, coworker. Oh, I overheard a conversation that my spouse, friend was having. Oh, I saw a neighbor and we talked about this, or I watched that television show. Acknowledge it, recognize where that mapping system has now connected into your hard drive, so to speak, into your memory bank, which then created a synapse firing that has brought you into a completely different space. So acknowledge it and then integrate it. That is now, I can't control what the news is talking about. I'm not going to be traveling. I'm not planning on leaving. I'm here, I'm staying in quarantine, so to speak. I have control over what I watch. I have control over what I say, the words that I use. I have control over how I breathe. I have control over what I eat, and I have control over the activities that I choose to participate in. Start back to the basics. What would make me feel good right now? And it could be something, I've never tried this before. Maybe I'll order some seedlings online and plant those and start a garden. I've always wanted to try to play the piano. Maybe I'll order a keyboard. There's a lot of different things. Maybe I just need to feel stupid and dance to some 80s tunes. Put on a song that is just stupid and silly. Watch a stupid movie that makes you laugh. And I'm going back to one of the things I posted a long time ago. Laughter is truly the best antidote. So the more fun you can have through stupid, silly, whatever games, get on Instagram or FaceTime somebody and play a game. Play gin rummy, play cards. Get outside of this and get back into here. So this is where I'm leading on to, ending with a little bit of update. And apologies if this cuts out, I always run out of room on my camera. So I'm creating what I feel inspired to share. Some people might be inspired to share what their do-it-themselves project that they're working on. They might feel inspired to share, I could use a little assistance. Anybody have any good ideas? It's called community. Communization. Playing with words. All right. There's a lot of stuff going across the internet right now. And without me going into my theories and beliefs and what I see energetically, it's all important to recognize the more open-minded we are, the more open-hearted we are. Oh, before I forget, if we're in lockdown emotionally and we're not acknowledging the fact that we feel whatever we're feeling and we're ignoring it or we're allowing it to compound without breathing, without moving, without doing something to shift that energy, first we have to recognize it in order to shift it. Then we shift it. Sometimes we don't have to recognize it actually. Sometimes we can just go for a walk, breathe a little fresh air, and we automatically feel better. And we may not have recognized that something was even bothering us. So it can work in either way. But what happens is when we're here and we're not here, or we're not, when we're in fear and we're not just in a space of harmony and balance, we're blocking our intuition. We're blocking and ignoring what our body is telling us. We're blocking messages from our guides, friends, whatever it might be. The universe is always giving us clues. That hasn't stopped just because the world is on quarantine, so to speak. In fact, there's a lot of positive things going on. People keep posting about the dolphins in Italy, and people keep posting about the crystal clear waters and less pollution over China, right? And so on and so forth. There will be a lot more positive stories about that coming out in the near future. In addition to that, and I'll do a different video on what does this mean for our future down the road. Right now, it's moment to moment, in this moment. How am I expressing myself? Am I paying attention to my body? What can I be doing in this now moment that my body needs or that I need to expand, to feel open, to relax, to feel more conscientious of what my higher self is trying to tell me? Not all of this noise out here, because that is irrelevant right now, unless that's where you're working in, obviously, and then that's hard to ignore. That's a different video. Still, all of this applies. So if we are in that space of literally quarantining ourselves from our emotions, tunnel vision as to what's happening out there, we are not receiving the bigger picture. We are missing the clues. We're missing the signals. Our intuition is blocked. Our body goes into shutdown mode. Our emotions are heightened. Cortisol goes up in the body. We stop breathing, and I could go on and on and on. And then it's a spiral into dis-ease and disharmony. So coming back to that space of awareness, I am aware, I feel, fill in the blanks, I now integrate that, I now breathe, are all key elements to continue every moment of every day. Moving on and forward and up now. If we keep in that space of kind of just moving in flow and not being so rigid, which is fear, is like, I'm stuck, I can't move, or moving out of like a robot, that is, the less rigid we are, the more open we can be to all of the incoming activations, the downloads from the sun, the uploads from the earth, right? All of that is still going on a mass scale, right? There's a lot going on. So recognizing that as well. I'm going to end on that note, and I'm going to do a separate video talking, I'll touch briefly on this. There's a lot of information coming in about disclosure, truth, and what's going on outside here. And it's all important and beautiful. I talked about this a little bit the other day. If we are not paying attention to how we are feeling, and we are not choosing to integrate those feelings and to shift or to move through those emotions, all of this flood of information that might be coming in can really get overwhelming. So this is only creating. What are we creating? How are we creating? And where are we creating from? Get back to the heart. Get back to gratitude for the fact that we are where we are, that we have accessibility to clean water, that we have accessibility to food. And if we don't, ask for help. Ask for it. Many people out there, all of us are helping one another. If we have more than enough to share, we will share, because we are coming back to the human nature, which is compassion. But we have to have compassion here. Otherwise, we fall apart and the world comes falling apart around us, right? So as this information floods in, we're really being asked to listen, to digest, to acknowledge how it makes us feel, and to essentially not get sucked into who, what, where, why, and how. It's great to ask these questions. And I will share my story eventually, because that's how I started waking up to all of this, was asking questions like who, what, where, why, and how. But speaking from experience, I got into a place of fear and made myself very sick. It will happen that way if that's what we choose to do. we can become so, people call it OCD. That's a thing. We can become so tunnel vision and so focused on something that our body starts to fall apart, our emotions start to wreak havoc on our system, and our environment reflects that. And so we're being invited not to do that, to come back to, I am receiving this truth. I am receiving this story. Does it resonate with me? Do I feel fear from it? Why do I feel fear from it? Is this really something that is going to affect who I am at the core? Or is this merely shaking up my belief system? And what is it that I really believe in and why? These are the questions that this should start stirring up. There will be a breakdown sometimes, because when we receive new information about fill in the blanks, that is literally the core of our values and the core of what we have been bred or raised to believe in, it can create feelings, emotions. We are human beings, right? We are hybrids, whatever you resonate with, but we have these emotions for a reason. And we are embodiments of a higher aspect through source energy. So we're being invited to not lose that connection, and to recognize that behind the story and behind everything that's being exposed, who are we? We are beautiful, compassionate human beings who are on this earth as guardians of the earth, as co-creators and collaborators, calibrators, right? Calibrating this existence with one another, creating a whole new world. So in love and light for now, I have much more to share. Namaste.